Hi everyone, I'm Pratima. I welcome you again to this video. Today we will talk about dyscalculia. It is like dyslexia. It is one type of learning disability, but it is related to mathematics. So it is also called as maths dyslexia or number dyslexia. When any person or any individual has this disability, he or she has a problem with numbers, number related concepts. Dyslexia impairs the individual's ability to learn number related concepts. He cannot perform your simple mathematical operations, and he cannot solve problems. He cannot make a word problem into a mathematical statement. He or she cannot do the backward counting nicely, and whenever he counts or she counts, she uses the fingers. So from the early childhood, it also is observed that people have this dyscalculia. And one thing we have seen that parents say, my child is very good in all the subjects except mathematics. That means there lies the things. Maybe we may not believe that my child has some disability, but we have to believe sometimes he or she may have disability. He may not have, but always you prepare for the thing. If there will be disability, we have to treat it, because 7% of the children have this disability. So when it can be identified at an early age, then it can be improved, and study cannot be hampered by this disability. There are different types of technology nowadays, so our child will not suffer due to this disability for which he or she is not responsible. So let us start. Symptoms and indicators include difficulties in processing the numbers and quantities. It includes your connecting a number with the quantity. For example, 2 apple, the number and the quantities of 2 apple, they cannot connect it. Counting backward, they cannot count the backward. Sometimes also they have problem counting forwards. Comparing two quantities, they cannot compare two quantities. That means which is greater, which is lesser, they cannot decide. They have trouble with subtizing. That means recognize quantities without counting. They cannot say without counting. They go on counting with fingers. Trouble recalling basic maths facts like multiplication table. They cannot recall multiplication table. Difficulties in linking number and symbols to amount. Trouble with mental maths and problem solving. Difficulties in making sense of money and estimating the quantities. Similarly, they have difficulties to tell the time from analog clock. Poor visual and spatial orientation. They cannot read the graph, they cannot read the map. They have difficulties. Difficulties immediately sorting out direction. Immediately they cannot think of what to do or how a statement can be converted into a mathematical symbols. Troubles with recognizing your pattern or sequence of the numbers, ascending order, descending order, they also face problem to arrange. Now they go on counting the numbers with fingers. Finger counting is typically linked to dyscalculia, but it is not the indicator of the sign always. If a child is counting the fingers and doing maths, it need not mean that she or he has dyscalculia, but the person who has dyscalculia, they always do counting by fingers. Then what are causes of dyscalculia? Exact causes of this type of dyscalculia are unknown, though research points that this issue may be due to the defect in the brain development or a cognitive development, or it may be genetics. It may come from the family only. Whatever it may be, we have to treat it and we have to accommodate it. There is no single test from which dyscalculia can be determined. Clinic people evaluate for the disorder by reviewing the academic record and performance in the standardized test, family history, and by observing the patient's difficulties in school, in work, and in everyday life. So there are many standardized tests available. If anybody thinks that he or she or his child is having this disability, they can go through the test, or they can go to the clinic people. First is, how will accommodate it in class or in study, in education. Allowing more time on the assignment. They should be given more time for assignment and calculation. Allowing to use the calculators. They should be allowed to calculate through the calculator. Adjusting the difficulty of the task. Task could be slightly less difficult for them than other people. Separating complicated problems into many small problems. Breaking down one difficult problem into different small stepwise problems so that they can learn it very nicely. Using posters to remind the student the basics of the mathematics. Always they can learn from the picture, from the poster. If it can be displayed, then they can learn better. Using music. Nowadays the research says that through music only this treatment can be done, or dyscalculia patients can learn very nicely using music. So many educational institutions doing the improvement of, or doing the research on this, they are using this therapy to, or this technique to improve in them. Next is computer based interactive lesson. This is the most important or useful technique which are used in nowadays. So we left it. Now it is suggested that this dyscalculia should be identified in the early childhood, because if it is left untreated, then dyscalculia persists into adulthood, leaving many disadvantages in when they come up into the higher education, even in the workplace success. So it is better to identify as early as possible. Sometimes as a parents we cannot believe it. We think that maybe he is not interested or she is not interested, or maybe she does not like. So but we don't know whether he or she may have disability for which he becomes anxious day by day whenever maths comes into the picture. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe the channel. Thank you for subscribing if you have subscribed. Thank you again.